Okay, so this year in 1998, the NRL celebrates its 20th birthday. We have seen a lot of developments in the game in that 20 years. We have seen a lot. We have seen, at the early stages of the NRL's existence, New South Wales were the dominant force in state of origin. In the latter stages, it's been Queensland. We have seen 12 different sides win in the grand final. And we've had some controversy as well, but we've seen the game develop. We now have the Rugby League, Australian Rugby League Commission, rather than the ARL and Rupert Murdoch basically governing the sport. We now have an independent commission governing the sport, which is a good start. It's been there now for 6 years. We've seen a few negatives though. We've seen match fixing scandals. We've seen salary cap breaches at several big clubs. There are a few issues the NRL needs to address in the next 20 years. They need to expand by at least 2 more teams, in my view, and they go to Perth. And maybe another team in Brisbane or another team in Melbourne, or even, if they want to brave it, Adelaide. They need to go, right, okay. We've got the East Coast, which is great. They've nailed down Queensland, New South Wales and into Victoria. They've nailed that down. That's brilliant. They've got a team in New Zealand. I think, honestly, they need a secondary team in New Zealand on the South Island in Dunedin. That's my personal view on it. And they need to go to Perth. There are options that have been rumoured and considered, and they need to look at teams like West Tigers, who clearly have off-field problems constantly. Regardless of their position in the league, West Tigers have not been the most stable joint venture club. They've been nothing short of a disaster, so maybe they should think about breaking that team back up into the 2 separate clubs of the Magpies and the Tigers, and go from there. NRL is still, I think, a step behind AFL in the domestic market. AFL is more popular, more people watch the grand final, more people watch games. Attendances are regularly up in the AFL. And there are questions over some of the expansion sides struggling at times. But on the whole, AFL is in quite healthy shape. They also have had their troubles against salary cap, peptides, match fixing, etc. There's been allegations of all. But at the same time, no sport is 100% perfect. The NRL has stabilised rugby league in Australia at a time when it needed to be. When the league came about, it was actually a compromise between both sides, the Super League and the ARL. It was a compromise that had come about. Both sides realised they couldn't win. Both sides realised they would lose more than win more if they carried on. The fact that Murdoch was involved worries me somewhat. But that's I have my views on Murdoch, but we're not going to go into that's not what this video is about. Another issue rugby league has in Australia is it's the secondary sport. It's the same in it's the secondary code as well worldwide for rugby union. Less players play it. Then you have the issue of in Europe it's not even a secondary sport. It's a lower ranked sport because of ice hockey and rugby union being more popular and played by more people. So there's also a culture thing as well, is to get people interested and playing and getting kids coached and kids involved, families going to games and getting some money into the sport. So there's those economic sides of it and social problems. But all told, the NRL is poaching the best Super League players, and Super League is not poaching the best. So the NRL Super League, the NRL's won that little battle for now. The World Cup was good. Australia put on a great show with the help of New Zealand and Papua New Guinea. They put on a great show a couple of months ago. I do have, again, I mentioned my concerns about the empty seats at the final, low attendances at certain games. I mentioned a few results that I think are suspicious and poor refereeing decisions. That's going to happen at any tournament. Any tournament, if there's no controversy at a tournament, then it's not a good tournament in my eyes. So certain things didn't go to form. I was very disappointed in New Zealand and how poor they were. with the amount of decent players they have at their disposal who play at the top level, I was very surprised by how New Zealand really failed completely in this tournament. But no, the NRL going forward is in a reasonably healthy state. A few questions are there about certain clubs and their governance, finances, but at the same time, the biggest question is whether to move a team out of Sydney or expand outside of Sydney. Those are two of the big questions. And the only club that looks really likely to eventually have to go is West Tigers. And what I find funny is it's the most popular NRL video I've done is on the West Tigers. So in the 20 years of the NRL, the West Tigers and Melbourne were both set up in '98. So they're the same age, club-wise, as the NRL. Melbourne, even with their salary cap breaches, will take that on board, have got to the grand final more time. They're the most successful side of the NRL era, consistently, and I'm saying consistently. Alongside Brisbane. Brisbane are also very consistent. West Tigers have been completely the opposite. So in the NRL era, the West Tigers have actually struggled more than not. They've been at the wrong end of the regular season ladder more often than not. They've been struggling drawing fans at times. They've had off-field financial issues. They've had ownership problems. They've had administration problems. Because it's a joint venture, there's two feeder clubs involved, and you've got to keep both fan bases happy. I honestly think that's the team that gets completely moved, a new club set up in Perth, completely rebranded, and the two original feeder clubs go back to being New South Wales Cup, Queensland Cup side, second grade, reserve grade teams again, playing in the Sydney competition. I honestly think that's the best result for both. There's rumours of the North Sydney Bears making a comeback, but I don't see how you fit them in the Sydney dynamic. They may also have to move, but they're not an NRL club. Another thing the NRL's done that I'm not happy with is getting rid of City Country Origin. I think that was a bad move because it's TV revenue. It's also revenue for the club that gets to host the match, be it in the city or in the country. Grassroots rugby league in rural areas is important to the game, be it up in Queensland, New South Wales, even as far as Western Australia or Victoria as well. They do play rugby league in Northern Territory. They do play it in Tasmania. These are markets you want to grow the game in. So I think that was a complete idiotic move by Todd Greenberg. I really do. The players are always honoured to be selected for any Origin side, be it state or city country. That I think was a mistake on the NRL's part. So there are some things that the NRL have done in the last 20 years that I don't agree with, but that's me being outside the box. I don't live in Australia for one. I'm outside the box as a fan. I think TV coverage over here in the UK could be better done. Yes, we can get it on Premier Sports, but the broadcasts aren't the best. You have to pay silly amounts of money. Yes, we've now got Free Sports, another channel. Again, not universal. You can't always get it unlocked on your Digibox, whatever freebie. The NRL could do something with the TV and the games shown over here to really increase the interest in rugby league. I used to watch the AFL and the rugby league when it was on cable back in the day, before Sky really got its teeth into every single sport and held every sport hostage financially. So I'm not a fan of Murdoch, as you can tell. There are a few other things NRL can do a bit better. The salary cap is an issue constantly. Certain clubs, I've mentioned this in my NRL videos, had set themselves, okay, this is our contracts, this is what our players are getting paid for this coming season. We've organised, we got our contracts done early, and then they were told when they were expecting the cap to be higher, that you can get your club, you can sign your contracts, and they did that, and they were told, now you're over the cap because we've actually come in at a lower cap level. So the salary cap needs to be clarified, cleared up, and possibly made into a fully hard cap or a soft cap. Whatever cap they end up having, they need to really look at that, because Manly have been breaching it for 5 years. There have been allegations of match fixing involving the Manly Sea Eagles, dating back 5 years as well, if not longer. And I have mentioned in my match fixing video there are several videos that are questionable of matches, video footage. If you look at certain decisions, there are questions that I would raise as a fan. But Australia as a country and as a sporting country is well ahead on dealing with match fixing. As I said, they've already got a dedicated police unit, a whole nationwide unit using the best and brightest officers and intelligence analysts. We're well ahead of even us, and we have the City of Westminster Police, which is a financial police force that deals with all financial crime. It's not got a dedicated unit. It's if they have to help other policing forces investigate these things, they're a very small force. Australia has invested a lot of time and money into having the best unit possible to combat match fixing. So Australia, the NRL has done some good things. There are things it can work on. The fact it survived 20 years and has now reached a point where it's stabilised with the commission. It's now got a completely independent CEO in Todd Greenberg. I don't particularly like him, but at least he's not under the influence of Murdoch like the previous one was. And we shall see how this is. I think this season is going to be the closest season simply because of the salary cap and how it's come about and players having to be moved. I think it's going to be the closest season out of the 20. And we'll have to see what happens from there. Thank you very much for watching. If you are a rugby league fan, let us know, and I'll have some more videos for you soon.